created an application which displayed us a mathematics question. And when we pressed one of the buttons, it also displayed us what was the correct answer. In this class and in a couple of next lectures, we will try to extend our very simple application to a slightly better application by allowing it the functionality to ask us more questions. In this class, we will also briefly discuss what is called a model view controller design pattern, or in short MVC design pattern. So let's get started. Please start your Android Studio now and open your older project. I hope you have now started your application. As you can see that our previously built application is already displayed here. Now, if you want to ask more questions, we will have to add a new class to our existing program. I am going to add a new class, and to add that I directly choose the package in which I am going to add. I right click, choose new and go to Java class. I will name this class as question bank. As you can see, Android Studio has created the class, has put it in right package. Now the next step for me is to declare some private variables. Let me declare a first variable which I will call as question. I will declare my question to be of type int. I will declare a second variable which I will call true question. Now, in the beginning of the lecture, I told you that we will be developing a class which can show us different questions. And as you saw earlier, that a question was a string. However, so far I have declared question as an int. Could you please make a guess on why I have done that? If you remember, we had described resources and resource IDs. Each resource is tied with the resource ID, and using the resource ID, we can use the resource in our program. Our question, which is an int, will act as a resource ID for different question strings. The next step is to declare a very simple constructor for our class. As you already know, the constructor needs to be a public method, and it starts with the name same as the class name. I would like to initialize both of my private variables inside my constructor. My constructor is now complete, and in my constructor I am passing two parameters which initialize my variables. The next step is to write what we call as getter and setter methods in Java. The getter and setter methods simply return us the value of the private variables or set the value of the private variables using public access methods. A getter normally starts with is, and while a setter normally starts with set. So a getter for int question will be called public int is question, and all it will do is return question, while the setter will be called set question and will set the question Now we will describe what we call getter and setter questions. Getter and setter questions are used to access private variables. A getter returns the value of the variable while a setter sets the value of the variable. So let's first write a getter setter method for our variable question and then for true question. A getter normally starts with get, as you may have guessed already, and it simply returns the value of the question. While a setter starts with set and it simply sets the value. Getting an error. I'm getting it because I had given the wrong type for the question. The right type of the question is int, and now my error is gone. Now you may be wondering that why I am writing getter and setter method and why I just don't declare my question and or true question to be publicly accessible variable by using a modifier public. As I told you earlier that Java has this concept of encapsulation which hides the implementation details. I would not like you to know what kind of variables I have in my class. Instead, I will provide you access to those variables only using public available methods. This allows me to change the implementation of my class whenever I want, as long as I support the publicly accessible methods. Now let's write the getter and setter for our another variable true question. As you may have guessed, that I am writing first a getter method. For the Boolean variable, we do not start with get, but we start with is, which is a more natural form for a Boolean, because we are asking a question, is it true or false, and then we return the variable. Setter is similar to any other setter and starts with the set. Please note that the getter and setter and the terminology is only a convention. You can write a method with any name and still assign the same functionality. However, it will help other programmers to understand your program better if you use a standard terminology. Question, I need to pass a variable. Oh, I made a mistake. I should have created a void, which I do now. Now my getter and setter functions are ready and my new class question bank is ready. What we are going to do in our program now is that we will be creating an array of question bank objects. And once we have this array of question bank objects, we will be displaying these questions using our original class quiz activity. What I am trying to use here is something called a model view controller. And while we will be discussing model view controller in great detail in another lecture, I will give you a brief idea. The model view controller design pattern allows our application logic to be divided into three categories: models, views, and controller. The model holds the application data and the business logic, while the view knows how to draw and display, and the controller connects the model and the view using the application logic. So in our example, our question bank class will be the model, our quiz activity class will be the controller, and our buttons which we have on our application will be the view. In a separate lecture, I will be describing model view controller design pattern in great detail and will explain more intricacies of this design pattern. However, I will mention the simple benefit of model view controller. Model view controller allows you to separate the functionalities. Tomorrow, you may want to just change the view to display your logic in a completely different manner. Or you may want to just change the controller by modifying your application logic. Or you may want to just change the models to show a different business logic while keeping the other two components same. Now let's get back to our class. Okay, so now our question bank class is ready. We will now try to update our view. The first step that we are going to do is to add a next button. We already have buttons for true and false. We would like to add a next button so that we can go to the next question. Let us see how we do that. What changes do you think we must be making to our views? Number one, now that we have more than one question, we will be using Android text not as a fixed hard-coded string. Number two, in order to do that, we will have to create a resource ID for our question. And number three, we will have to add a new button which will take us from one question to another question. So let's start working on our view file. So in the text view, we have this fixed hard-coded question. Let's first delete it. That is fine. Just like we added the resource ID for our buttons, we are going to add the resource ID for our string that we will use to ask the question. Apart from these two buttons, we are going to add another button which we will call as next button. Let me copy the previous button code, just make modifications into the next button. Number one, that this button will be called next button. Other two are same, and we will just also change it to next as well. Again, you can see that the Android Studio is showing error because it cannot resolve the symbol, because so far we have not created a string which is called next button. Please ignore this error as of now. Now let's go back to our rest folder, go to value, go to string and add a next button. I would like it to display next. Saved it. Let me go back. Check if my error is now gone. Yes, my error is now gone and I can see next button. My fixed question is also gone. So instead of one question like last time, we will now ask 4 or 5 questions. Let's go back to our string class and start changing our questions. Let's say my first question remains same. I will just copy it 3 more times and create 3 more questions. Question 2, let me ask 29, let me ask for 43, let me ask for 49. Change the string IDs, save my strings file, and I hope that everything is okay. Go back, everything looks just fine. Now, after updating my view file, I would like to update my controller file, which is the quiz activity file for us. As you saw last time, that in the quiz activity, we created 2 buttons and we said what happens when those buttons are clicked. Now, first that we have created now 3 buttons, and now we will need to set up what happens when we press the 3rd button. Besides that, unlike the last time where they were displaying a simple question, this time they will be displaying different types of question by pressing the next button. We will be making multiple changes to this file. We will be adding different variables and we will also be adding our extra button. And then we will also create an array of questions with an index. We will try to access those questions. Let's start working by first adding an extra button. As you saw that for text view I was getting an error. I pressed Alt and Enter into Android Studio and it imported the right file. a typo. Okay, now let's move on, and we should try to write some more code to make sure that we can have multiple questions. Now I have two possibilities. Number one, I can give it a size, then initialize the array later, or because I know that my array only has 4 elements, I can try to initialize it directly here without giving it a size. And because I know that the size will be set to the initialization that I do here. So let's try the second approach for now and try to initialize the array without giving the size explicitly. Do you remember what our questions were? Well, first let's think about question number 1. I am accessing my question number 1 string by using the resource ID for question number 1 string. The question number 1 was, is 29 a prime number? The answer to that is true. Question number 2. Was also true. So was question number 3. However, question number 4 was to asking, is 49 a prime number? Which is not true. So yes, now I have described all my array elements. My array is initialized with the size 4 of type question bank. Let me also describe another variable called current index. Current index will refer to the index of the array that we are trying to access. There are multiple ways to define models data. In this example, we are using a very simple method. Later, in more advanced application, you may be seeing that the data is stored separately. For the time being, let's keep it simple and just create the array within the controller. Now, let's go and create our text view. Now, let's start working with our question text view. We had declared the text view earlier with a variable question text view. We are now trying to initialize it. As you have seen that in our activity underscore quiz.xml file, we had removed the simple text view and we had created a text view with the resource ID. And here's the ID that we are now using. We're also using the current index to get to the right place in the question bank and get the question. I have typo and now, oops, I believe that in my previous file I made a mistake. Let me correct it. Get question and now it is fine. Okay, so we have set up our text view. We are taking the right question to get it. Now let us just set the text of this question. This completes our code to display the right question. Save our file and let's just run it. I'm going to run it on an emulator. Okay, as you can see here that we have 3 button and we have our first question displayed. If we press our next, then nothing happens because so far we have not added any functionality to the next button. The next step in our application development is to add some functionality to this next button. Let's go, stop the app and start changing our quiz activity file again. First step, just like last time, is to get the ID. Then I will have to set the behavior. What happens if next button is pressed? What do you think I should do here? Well, we are going to increase the index of the array so that our pointer moves to the next element in the array and displays us the next question. We cannot simply increase to 1 because we have to come back when the array has been fully traversed. This we achieve by using following line of code. Now my array will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3 as the code progresses. This completes the function for my next button. As you may have noticed that this piece of code is exactly same to this piece of code. Whenever we have such a situation, it is good to create a private method and then call that method. Let's create a private method called update question. Copy this code there and then call update question whenever we need this piece of code. I'll just copy it. This saves us some lines of code and also makes it easy to update question code later. And we will be sure that it is updated at both of the places. Now, let's run our program one more time. As you can notice, our output is changing. would just magnify the output for you. 2, 3, 4. First question, second question, third question, and fourth question. So now our next button is working. Are our true false working? Okay, is 49 true? No, it's not. This is because we have so far not added the functionality for determining whether our question and the answer that we give are correct or not. Now that our next button is working, let's also check if our true or false buttons are working. Let me press it and it displays correct, which is wrong, as you may know. This is happening because so far we have not updated the functions of our true and false button since we added new questions to our application. In our next step, we will be doing that. So we will add a new method called quiz. We will add a new method that's called check answer. This method will accept a Boolean variable that identifies whether the user pressed true or false. And then this method will check user's answer against the answer in the current true-false object. Finally, after determining whether the user has answered correctly or not, it will make a toast that displays the appropriate message to the user. Let's add this method in the quiz activity class. I declare a variable called message_id, which stands for message result ID. Then try to determine that what the user pressed is it same what has been given as the answer in my question object. If this is indeed the case, then I will make a message result ID of correct toast, else I will make message res ID of incorrect toast. I will then go ahead and show my toast. For this I will be using code similar to what we used earlier. Let us save our file. Is the code now complete, or do you need to do something else as well? Well, within the buttons listener, we will have to call our new method called check answer, which we have just described. So let's go and call check answer whenever we press true or false buttons. Instead of simply displaying the toast, I will call check answer. I will initialize it with true. This solves. Similarly, for the false button, I'll just call answer. I will just wait with false. And hopefully I'm done. Okay, so now let's test our application by running it one more time. Next is working. Yes. Incorrect. Correct. Good. So now our application is fully functional. It can show us 4 different questions, and if we make a mistake, it can point it out. That is good development. As a homework, I would like you to add a previous button to this application. As you may guess, the previous button should take us to the previous question. This is it for this lecture. We have successfully increased the functionality of our application. We got a very brief but important introduction to the MVC design pattern, and we enhanced our application. For this example, I have used the resources from the book Big Nerd Ranch Guide. You may buy this book from Amazon or from any other bookseller. The full name of the book with publisher information is given on the NPTEL website. Thank you.